I'm going to tell you that this episode is going to be sweet. Maple syrup sweet. You'll get the pun when we get to the end. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about two things. I'm going to talk about this thing and then that thing. And you're going to say, wow, I really like this thing. And then you're going to say, ooh, I really like that thing. But I can't buy that thing right now, but I can buy this thing. So I'm going to buy this thing so that later I can have that thing. It'll make sense by the time we get to the end, trust me. I also noticed when I was looking at my demographics, because the channel's starting to grow, and I really appreciate that if you watch this and you watch it regularly, particularly if you comment and you give some helpful information like new things that I didn't happen to mention. That's helpful for all of us, because the whole idea here is that we could all grow and learn more and hopefully make more as this bull run unfolds. So when I looked at my demographics, I realized I've got older audience like myself and younger audience as well. So to the older audience, I should say, pay attention to this entire show. I think it's going to be very helpful, or I should say episode, whatever this is, because man, it's going to be amazing. And for my younger audience, bruh, it's going to be fire. That's so dumb, but it's funny. Just to me, probably. Okay, I didn't shave. Probably should have, but I was really interested in getting this out to you. Actually, I should shave because you know what? When I get a beard, everyone says to me, hey, your head's upside down, which is kind of true. Maple Finance. I own Maple. I have to always say that. My disclaimer, big dumb animal, as if that's not obvious. Don't do what I do. Informational purposes only. Maple. Let's take a look at it. Here it is. It's MPL. It's in 3 different spaces, so to speak. If you look at it, I'm on CoinGecko in DeFi. So it's in the broader category of decentralized finance. And if you scroll down here, you'll see, look how many, and they just go and they go and they go. And then eventually you run across Maple. All right. Then you say, well, what about other categories? Real world assets. It is, because you can use them to collateralize. And you scroll down and you scroll down and you scroll down, Maple. But really, for me, it's in lending and borrowing, subcategory of DeFi. And if you scroll down, boom, right there. That alone should tell you something about it. Okay, so for me, when I look at, because I'm big into DeFi, meaning I think it's going to be a big runner in this particular bull run. This is November of 2024. I think by August, September or so, it should really have done well. And I think DeFi in general, probably we all do, over the long term, will do extremely well. So I like it for the short term, I always like to say, and I like it for the long term. Within DeFi, subcategory of lending, I like it a lot. That's why I own it. Okay, let's take a look at it. Now, generally speaking, what is Maple? When I do some of these crypto reviews, I usually go into things like the management team and who invested in them. Now, why do we look at things like that? We look at things like that because maybe they haven't yet executed on their roadmap. Like if it was a startup company, which many of these are basically, and you're just looking at companies, well, they just got seed capital. Okay. Well, they got something in beta. They're not even out to the public yet. Then you got your A round, your B round, your C round, right? As they seem to mature. Well, when it comes to something like this, I don't feel the need to look at as much who invested in them and the management team, although that management team in particular is important, but because they've started to hit metrics. Total value locked. How much are they lending? That sort of thing. So if you've already got those sort of metrics, then I don't think you need to dig into as much of the other. So that'll make this episode much quicker. Generally speaking, what is Maple? Maple primarily serves the 2 markets, and it's institutional. So instead of retail or consumer, what they would call it, going to the bank and getting a car loan, okay, that's lending from the bank to just the individual, and the bank, let's just say they get their money from depositors. Okay, so you've got this kind of consumer market of credit and loans. This is institutional. So in other words, those that are borrowing are hedge funds, etc., borrowing money, and they're under collateralized. And I think this is very important. You know, if I go to Aave, which I've done, and you may have done, you're going to need to over collateralize. So if you want a $16,000 loan, you're going to have to put down 20,000 value of Ether. If it's an 80% loan to value, you're putting up more capital than you're taking out. That doesn't make sense for businesses. As an individual, well, what am I doing? I'm just saying I'm going to hold on to my assets. I believe my assets are going to go up in value. So I'm going to take out a stable coin because I want to keep my assets and let them grow. And then I'll just pay back that stable coin. Okay. But for big institutions or companies, when they're borrowing to grow. If they had the money, they wouldn't be doing the borrowing. You might say that's the same for consumer, but it is different for institutions. So in this case, it is important that Goldfinch and Maple and others are able to provide loans to these institutions without having them over collateralized. So Maple does that. They're under collateralized loans, which is fine, and it's to institutional. Now, in order, on the other flip side, to give the money, and this drives me crazy, but you have to be accredited. So consumers are not really involved. Now, it will get better, trust me, as we talk about the next iteration of this. So don't turn this off yet. Consumers are not involved. It's, it's kind of institutions to institutions. It's sort of this world of credit and finance that is gigantic, that people, individuals, non-accredited investors aren't able to take advantage of. But you will be by the end of this episode. I'll show you how. Okay. Now, why does that drive me crazy? Well, if you know what accredited investor means, you've either got a certain net worth or you make a certain amount of money for a certain amount of time. You've got to prove these things. I've had to, for example, with certain investments, I've had to have an accountant say, well, look, here's his stuff, so therefore allow him to do this. It's a pain. Why do they have this? Well, someone like the SEC would say, well, we have accredited investors because we're protecting you, the non-accredited investor. What are they protecting you from? Well, you, the non-accredited investor, you're not that smart. That's not really what they're saying. It's kind of, in my mind, that's what they're saying. You're not smart enough to invest in this. What they mean is the institutional investors, hedge funds, etc., may have better information than you have. And if they have better information, then they kind of have a leg up and you're always going to lose, which is sort of the case with stock markets. Well, we won't get into that. Now, in the past, a long time ago, as an anecdote, when I was younger and the internet wasn't around, my father would take me to the library and we would look at a subscription service that the library got. I'm trying to think, Value Line. Pretty sure it was called Value Line. And you could get the reports from the various companies, the stocks, your quarterly reports, and you could see their balance sheets and their income statements and all this stuff. And my father would sit me down and we'd go through that because he was doing value investing. There wasn't the ability to just pull up a stock chart and pull up all the information instantaneously. Okay. And my father's a great man, and I value that very much, what he taught me back then. And now all of this information's online. Okay, so back then, would a institutional big bank or a hedge fund or something, would they have better information than the regular everyday consumer? Yeah, there was no internet. The information we're getting out of Value Line is probably a month old. Someone's already had it. So the difference in information and therefore the decision-making process was huge. So that was the idea. They have better information than you, so you shouldn't be dabbling in that world. Makes perfect sense. You're a 150-pound lineman. Don't line up against a 300-pound lineman. He's going to crush you. Valid. But now, with the internet and all the information, I would argue, I think many of us would say that the gap is much smaller. Now, maybe they do have better information, probably information they aren't getting legally, just saying. But the gap's much smaller, so I can't stand this, you're not accredited, you're too dumb. Anyway, that doesn't change the fact that Maple is, I think, has an incredible business model. Here they've got some basic stats. Total value locked, total value borrowed, 500 million locked, 5 billion borrowed, 62 million in interest already. And then those that are investing and lending are able to get a really good yield because these are often fixed rate loans. Okay, so let's take a look at their Twitter. We'll just finish with Maple and then we're going to move on. They do have these shows, which I think are fantastic. I think it's great when a crypto is keeping their momentum going and putting information out there. They had something interesting that I thought was look at this statement. One more thing about Maple. They're talking about Maple's direct secured lending pools have surged to over 500 million total value locked. It's growing fast. And are actively underwriting new fixed rate term loans, what I just mentioned. So fixed rate, 8%, whatever it is, fixed. It's not going to change over the term of the loan. And then it's a term loan. So it's not indefinite. It's 3 years, 36 months. But this is interesting. I don't know if this is good or bad, to be honest. Against PendelFi, principal tokens, PTs, as collateral. What does that mean? Pendle allows you to take a payment and split it. This is not something new. This has been being done for a long time. And split it and say, well, this is the principal part of the payment and this is the interest part of the payment. Okay, so PT is the principal part of the payment. And you can use it as collateral for a loan from Maple. Now think about that. If it's a 3-year loan, you're not going to have that value, that principal token has future value. Doesn't have the value yet until the term is over. So you're essentially, I mean, what's an analogy? I don't know. I'm going to put my car up as collateral for this loan. What car is it? Where is it? Well, I don't actually have it right now, but I'm going to have it in the future. And when I do have the car in the future, it will be collateral. Okay. It's just one of those things that if things go south, it's like a spider web trying to untwine it. But anyway, I think that's fantastic. I think this just shows that the things they're doing in DeFi, they're really forward thinking. It's not that it hasn't been done before, but they're moving on to these platforms like Maple. Okay. So now you know what Maple is. Maple is basically institutional, accredited. Great. And they don't have to be over collateralized. That alone is a great business model. Makes perfect sense. If we go over to DeFi Llama, we take a look at Maple. It's only showing 145 million, but that's not the whole story. Here's why. Now let's merge into what I really wanted to talk about. If you look at it on Dune, here's the 500 million they were talking about in the tweet and on their website. And the reason is, if you look at how it comes up here, there's this called syrup. Okay, well, what is syrup? Now, first, let's just take a look at this. Monthly protocol revenue. This should be exciting. Look at it from March of 23 all the way up to here we are in October. So the first was March of 23 at $12,000. And now it's up to $355,000 with a very nice trajectory. Okay. If we look at the stock price of Maple, because right now you can buy Maple. Like I said, I have it. 5-year, 1 year. Hasn't done much in terms of over time. However, that doesn't matter to me because in the last 6 months, back to the summer, it was down here around $12. It's up around 22. But look at the last 3 months, when a lot of altcoins have been just tanking as we're waiting for Bitcoin to hit new highs. Then some of that movie to roll over into altcoins. It still had some pullbacks, but still a nice upward trajectory with higher lows. Okay, here's what's exciting. So, quick advertisement. I created this school community. Link down below, $25 a month or pay for a year and get 2 months free. As you can see, we have communities for organizing crypto and discussions. And if you appreciate fundamental analysis and want to keep up to date, then this is the place for you. I'm hoping for like-minded people to have discussions with. I'm adding courses all the time, from debanking to staking, put your crypto in an IRA for tax advantages, you name it. Whether you consider yourself new or advanced, there is something for everyone. And you will find content here that is not on YouTube, as well as some videos posted in the community before they're even live on YouTube. You get them first. Maple to syrup. So this is a sweet deal, which I think this is hilarious. Maple syrup? That's funny. Come on, that's funny. So Maple is going to convert over to Syrup because Syrup has it's a new platform, syrup.fi. It's going to be a conversion. So if you own Maple or you're buying it now, 1 Maple will convert to 100 Syrup with no dilution. That's what you care about for existing Maple token holders. All right, what's this Syrup stuff? Well, first off, let's just say, here it is, November 13th. I'm doing this on November 1st. I'm not sure when I'm going to release this episode, but November 13th, it will be moved over to Syrup, so you can go ahead and get your hands on Maple now. What is Syrup? So here, we're going to watch this video. So now here's Syrup. What did they do there? You may have noticed in that video that they said over-collateralized. Yes, on the Syrup platform, they're over-collateralized. On the Maple platform, they're under-collateralized. So what they're doing is they're allowing, I went on that huge rant for a reason. You don't have to be accredited. You can now stake and get involved as an individual who's non-accredited and take advantage of the yields that are being created by those institutional loans. They solved the problem and they said, hey, you, the individual, can now get involved. You can stake USDC and you can achieve higher yields essentially because of the loans, the institutional loans on the Maple platform. Now, here's the unfortunate part is that when you want, I'm in the United States, so this is not unfortunate for everybody, access restricted. Syrup's not available in your current country. I'm in the US. All right. Now, that stinks. So what someone could do is maybe, use a wallet and a VPN, but I'm not suggesting you do that. Because, obviously if it says you shouldn't access it in the US, it's because if you're in the US, well, you're dumber than the rest of the world. And people like in the UK are way smarter than people in the US. So they get to utilize the platform because they understand how it works. But if you're in the US, bunch of dummies can't use it. That doesn't change the fact that I'm still investing in Maple. And I think I might buy some more, to be honest, because I want to do it before Syrup comes out. I also forgot to mention, I believe they said the total is going to be 1.15 billion. There you go. All right. Now, if you look at something, CoinGecko, CoinMarketCap, whatever, here it is. It's going to be SYRUP. You'll be essentially switched over. They said they're going to have an easy mechanism to do it, they being Maple. So on November 13th, or maybe before that, some information will come out and they'll say, here's what you do. Click this button and you'll be able to swap your Maple over to Syrup. You can buy Maple on a multitude of exchanges, Coinbase if you happen to use it, which I always think is great because I think it reaches those individuals, a broader audience. That was it for today. Thanks for watching. I hope we can all make generational wealth together with crypto. I'm a huge fan of DeFi and particularly the lending space. Have a great day.